So the off season is not where you take it easy. The off season is where you build. The off season is where you patch up, you get better, and you implement in hopes of putting forth a better spring. What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you guys tuning in to the Nine Hope podcast. I got somebody that is extremely special that has insane amounts of experience, especially when it comes to grinding in the off season. So we have talked about it before in the past with Nick, and we'll talk about it moving forward even more. The off season is where you separate from your competition. Everybody, Nick Dini is here, ex-Major League Baseball player, catcher for the Royals. Nick, how you doing, brother?
Good, Mill. Good to be back, bro. Excited to start talking about the off season. It was a time of year that I know for me personally as a player, I really enjoyed and something I looked forward to because I always had an appetite for improving on my year, good, bad, and different. I always wanted to improve and find areas of my game that I can improve on.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we go through the season, wherever we're at, whatever level we're at, we are consistently trying to fine tune, produce. Obviously, the off season is where we are able to do most of our heavy lifting, for lack of a better term. The off season is where we're going to be able to strip stuff down, try new things, take away stuff that doesn't work, maybe implement some new things, get some new coaching in there, what have you. Man, in your mind right now, with where we're at, November 6th, dude, where should players be in the offseason? What should they be doing right now? And how should they be preparing in order to get ready for the spring coming up?
Well, I know most of the guys that I'm working with, college just wrapped up their fall. So I know from past experiences when we were in school and talking to certain guys, it's a lot of weight room now. It's a lot of taking care of your body and improving on that aspect of it. Adding strength, size, speed, wherever your deficiencies are. This is an awesome opportunity to really hone in on that piece of it. I know from myself personally, when the fall season ended or whenever any season ended for me, it was like, okay, like take care of your body, improve where you needed to improve and make that the focal point. And then as the offseason starts going, now you start getting a little more specific in what you're trying to do. I always took probably 3 weeks off from hitting. And then as I got older, it was a little bit more. But like when I was in the thick of it, college, I didn't take any time off. Early in my career, I didn't take any time off. And then like as I got older, obviously the years started to become a little more grueling as the body, as I started aging a little bit, a lot of miles behind the plate. But so I would start a little later. But for the most part, man, like it was you just transition right into it. I would typically after a professional season take a week off from everything, just kind of dissect the year and kind of outline a plan for myself. And that's why, we've talked about this in the past. Like I think it's super important for players to be brutally honest with themselves. And understand where those areas of improvement are needed. And that's why, as a player, you should be taking inventory and not just look at, the baseline stuff of, oh, I hit this, this, and this. Like, what areas did you lack? Where could you, improve on your game? You know what I mean? So being able to, self dissect and understand where you are and where you need to get to in relation to the competition and people that are trying to come for your job or, guys you're trying to beat out. Like you have to be honest and knowledgeable about those areas that you need to improve on.
Pooh, there we go. Freaked out right there. Dude, 100% agree. So how important for you was like having a set routine in the off season? Dude, I know like when I was coming up, we were obviously with each other at Wagner. We had, gotten drafted a year or two apart, man. But obviously, like you go into the low minor league grind and you have a routine. You try to go about it in the off season, but you learn a lot as you keep going. You keep progressing up that ladder, dude. For me, I was just talking to this. I was just talking about this the other day, the last 2 days, with a player or two of mine. Man, it's like I see what other guys do, the older guys, how they go about their offseason, maybe dudes that are already in the big leagues, how they attack it. And it looks a lot different compared to what I was used to or what I was thinking an offseason was going to look like. I honestly I always came from a place where it's like, dude, I need to put in the volume, I need to put in the time in order to build the skill. So it's like, I need reps, dude. I need reps. The higher that I went up the ladder, the more that I saw that these guys had higher quality reps. So they didn't necessarily have to put in an insane amount of reps every single day. They are putting in quality work day in and day out, even in the heart of the offseason, in the beginning of the offseason, in the end. These guys are doing stuff quality. So I always thought it was crazy seeing the older guys, the better guys, the more experienced dudes not blow out early in the offseason because they're trying to do too much early. Like, how important was routines for you? Like, what did the workload look like, man? And what is the proper way to go about this offseason workload?
So a really good question, because I couldn't agree more. And that's the point I was making about, like, as I got older, I found like my off season started a little bit later because, like, for me personally, like, I needed to give my body some time to recover before I started to attack the off season. When I was younger, I was the same way, dude. If it wasn't 7 days a week for hours on end, like trying to get in the cage and hit and do all, these baseball skill development, like right off the jump, you also, I think, as you get older, you start to understand yourself way better. You know what I mean? The more you play, the more you're in it, you kind of start to realize, okay, this worked for me, this didn't. So let me tailor, this piece of it to try to avoid something that happened. You know what I mean? Like, I, for instance, had a back injury in 2019, after 2019. I had to adjust the way that I went about my off season in regards to the way I lifted. Like, at that point, I felt as if, I was at a place where I was strong enough. I needed to be able to move. I needed to be able to be healthy. I needed to be able to get through, the grind of a minor league season, so that the way I approached an off season tailored it to where I went into spring feeling at my best physically. You know what I mean? And that became the most important piece to me, where early in my career, I might have been burnt out by the time I got to spring training because I'm putting so much time into, okay, what am I doing in the cage? Like you alluded to, the multiple hours in the cage, and, really getting down to the nitty-gritty with that and taking volume. I think it just depends where you are. You know what I mean? Because if you're at a place where you have to make wholesale changes. Like, for instance, after 2018, my offseason looked a lot different, which probably went into why my back blew out in 2019. But 2018 had a really tough year. 2019, I realized, hey, these are things that I need to change. I went through a complete overhaul with my swing. So it required me to spend more time in the cage. And that's where my attention was. So it was a little bit less on, okay, get your body right. It was more about, hey, dude, like, I don't care how good you look or how good you feel. If you go out and you hit 240 again, it don't matter. You know what I mean? So it's like you gotta fix something. So that's why I think the biggest thing, like in creating an off-season plan, is to truthfully dissect the prior year, what you did well, what you didn't do well, continue to build on what you did do well, and you have to attack the areas of weakness. Now, it's a slippery slope because the further along you get, and this is more towards the pro side of things, like the strengths that you have, you can't lose what you do well to try to make up for what you lack, right? So if you're a guy who, you hit a ton, and for whatever reason you're like, you know what, I want to work on my speed. Well, it's like, great that you want to do that, but is it really going to be beneficial for me to go from, a 5 stolen base a year guy to 10 stolen bases? Is that really going to increase the value and what teams perceive me as? Like, do I need to add that if it like comes at the expense of not maintaining my strength of hitting nukes? You know what I mean? So it's like, you can't, you have to weigh the risk reward, right? And I see Mikey Adams in here.
Yeah, baby.
And I know, like, for them, this is an awesome opportunity to continue, like, for guys to on the pitching side to clean up a lot of things and to work on, design and what they're doing on the mound. But like from a hitting standpoint, I tried to have a real understanding of the biggest thing for me, and this is what I think of as hitters, is like, you need to look at the season that you had, right? And then to get more specific, what pitches did you hit well? What pitches did you not? What areas of the zone did you handle? What areas of the zone were more troublesome for you? Because that's going to paint a little bit clearer of a picture of where your swing is, right? So, like, for instance, with me, there was a year where I was extremely back leg and kind of spinny with my swing. So, luckily I had a good year, but I knew when looking at my maps, it was like, dude, if you threw a ball down and middle in or down, I was going to crush you. But if you got anything away from me, I was lucky if I was driving getting a base hit to right field. So I knew, hey, they have this information. If you take a one look at like my heat maps, all you have to go into a meeting and say is, do not throw him anything middle or in. Just stay away and you won't get burned. You know, you might give up your bullshit knock through the 4-hole, but you're not going to get hurt by staying away to this guy. So it was something that I had to do, that just like it was with the high, like for a high pit, like I struggled mightily that same year handling up and away. So it was like, what did I do? Like I got to the big leagues and they just attacked me at the letters and I was helpless. You know what I mean? Like I just could not handle it because my swing was not in a place to take care of that pitch. So you go into the offseason and you have to think about, you know, maybe a little bit of postural change or, you know, the way you're approaching certain guys. Like it really does get down to the nitty gritty when you start not looking at 0 for 4, you start looking at why or how, because now you can formulate the game plan to counteract how these guys are going to attack you. So, I know that's hard for younger hitters to do, but that's something that I preach to my guys is like, hey, like you got to understand what you do well and what you don't. Like there are not many hitters that handle all 4 quadrants of the zone. That's just the reality of it. So how do you combat that? You know what I mean? A lot of it's, we talked about too, knowing the guy on the mound. So like, there's just so much that goes into it. But I would say the biggest thing is like dissecting your season and really like trying to understand, right? And if you haven't gotten to that point yet as a ball player where you're actually looking at, okay, I know like at the end of the year, like I didn't have the average that I wanted or I hit as many home runs as I wanted to, but why, where, how do I do this? How are they getting me out? How are they attacking me? How do I better prepare for that going forward? Because you know it, dude. Like once you got a hole and that hole's exposed, it's like,
it's exposed.
Go ahead. Exactly. Go ahead until you do, until this guy beats you. I have nightmares. Like I'll never forget. I'm in the big leagues and I'm, you know, to this point, I'm doing okay. Like I feel good about what I'm doing up there. We have a game in Miami and we're facing Caleb Smith, who was a ride heater lefty. And he just peppered me with heaters at my like letters. And like, I look back at the video, dude, and like he got one up there early in the game that wasn't a strike, but it got to me where I'm like, all right, yeah, you got to be able to, you know, that's one that you got to get after. I was 0 for 4 with 4 punch outs. And it was like, it was one of those where it was just like, holy shit. And then from there, it was right there for you, dude. If you could get a ball to the top of the zone or close to him up, he wasn't going to do shit on you. So then it was like, I go into that next off season and it's like, I was very much like on my back leg and like through my quad. Then it was like, okay, after the next season, I thought, man, I got to get more athletic. I need to be more dynamic. I need to stand a little bit, you know, taller with my posture to kind of counteract what these guys are going to do to me. And I knew that because the book was out, like it was there. So it was like my off season was pretty much mapped out by one August game in Miami where Caleb Smith just took me to the woodshed. It was, you got to be able to handle the top, dude. Like, because you can't survive if you have that many holes.
100%. 100%. So we're going about the off season attacking the stuff that we're not necessarily great at, right? We're trying to make adjustments. We're trying to implement new things like we talked about, man. We take the stuff that got us out or that we had trouble with during the season, and we're looking to maximize, dude. So when we were going through the minor leagues, when we were in the big leagues, we had stuff in the offseason that kind of kept us on track. We knew where we were. We had resources that were available to us. So now what you're doing, you're working with, in Monmouth County, New Jersey, you were working with the Arsenal, Tri-State Arsenal, and you are primarily working with 12, 13, 14-year-olds, right? So you are working with the younger generation of future Major League Baseball players, man. These younger players, how are they supposed to know if they are making progress? How are they supposed to know if they're stacking up? Like, how do they know they're on track, dude? How are you able to do that with your players?
So the same kind of concept as we just talked about is like with what we do is like we set up their offseason plan based off of like their areas of need. So like we see stuff, and especially at that age right now, right? Like making the jump from the small field to the big field, a huge emphasis right now for those guys is on the gym portion of it, like physicality, getting strong, getting faster. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
outfield's a lot bigger. If you're an outfielder, you got to be able to cover more ground. If you're a hitter, you got to be able to, have a little bit more thump to get like those balls that you were hitting out with a trampoline bat on a small field. Like those mishits are now outs. They're not like home runs where you get a little misguided and a little, you know, you get a little false positives, I should say, on that field. So right now at this stage, it's everything is tailored toward the gym, and then come December, it's going to be for the hitters specifically. It's going to be in December. We talk about on an individual basis, like, hey, this is what we see in your swing. This is a drill package that fits what you need specifically, and then it's just honing in on that. So my job is to let these kids know and give them the information and tell them, hey, this is why you might have struggled. This is why you excelled at this. Like, so we're going to continue to, harp on being sure that we're doing, what we did well, but also opening their eyes to what they didn't do well. And most of the time, and this is how you get buy-in on this. Like from my perspective is like, I'll see a guy start hitting, right? And you'll see like, one of the big things you see like with young hitters is like breaking posture. Everybody just
Mm.
like works this way. Everything's from the front. So it's like, I just go to them. I'm like, hey, where do you like the ball? Most of the time they're like middle, little middle in. I was like, okay, I know that. I was like, do you hate the ball away? Yes. I was like, are most of your outs pull side on the ground or flares to right? Yes. Okay. Why do you think that is? Well, because you're like getting into posture and then you're trying to swing your way out of posture. Like you're all your directions going left. Like you can't do anything to that side. So if a pitcher just executes a pitch, that's limiting your ability to have any kind of success because your swing has holes. So it's just kind of opening their mind to, what we see as coaches and like giving them the information and then just continuing through the offseason to try to hone in on those deficiencies and clean some stuff up before the next year.
Yeah, dude. So, what at least something that I experienced coming up in the Northeast, dude, it's starting to get cold out where we're at, right? So we're moving indoors. We're in the cage. We're inside in the facility. A lot of times we can't like maximize what we're doing. A lot of times we can't challenge ourselves with just so many resources available to us, and being indoors, dude, that sucks.
Sucks.
Then how are you able to challenge your kids? How are you able to like, dude, test the boundaries, incorporate failure, dude, because like a lot of times, but we talked about it, bro, incorporating failure, man, that's how we're going to get better, right? If we're just in our comfort zone and just moving and grooving and feeling good all the time, how are we improving, right? Like how are you able to do that stuff?
Yeah. So like at this point in the off season, it is a little bit more of a controlled setting. You know what I mean? Because we're like going to get into like I just talked about the mechanics of the swing and what like the individual needs. But as the off season gets going, I would say like for these guys, they don't start till April's, right? So like February, March, we have to add some chaos into the way we train. Like we need to incorporate failure into that, because I had this conversation with a player the other day. I was like, listen, because I kind of give kids the freedom to like, hey, this is your time. What, like, however, what do you want to do? Whatever. So I noticed that this is a guy that likes his flips and likes his BP, doesn't really like the machine, doesn't really like to get challenged. So I said to him, like, listen, like, this is all great. You know, you're coming in and you're putting the work in, but this isn't hitting. Like, this isn't what happens in the game. It's not, here's a puffed front flip and here's some caviar BP. Like, you're going to have to like make decisions. You're going to have an approach. You're going to have to do different things. And that's like the compete side of it, where I think we lose sight of that because we are so focused on making sure the mechanics are good. Like, you need to have good mechanics to hit at a high level. Like right now, maybe you don't, but like as you get older, the higher you go, the more clean I think you need to move and the mechanics need to be. But you need to incorporate failure because you also need to learn how to fail, right? Like, and I love this. I actually had a college guy the other day, and I mean, dude, the kid has made tons of strides with the swing. We do chaos every day, and he loves it. Loves the chaos part of it. But we've actually learned how to, like, with that, like, how to think externally, right? So like he knows, like, if he's mishitting a ball, like I talked about, to that side, chances are it's posture. If he's like rolling over to the left side, like quit, like those like worm burners right in front of the plate off the machine, that's telling him he wasn't giving himself enough time to get forward. So he just puts his foot down and rushes and he gets spinny. You know what I mean? So exactly. And that's another thing too, bro. Like you come up and like you're taught, oh, I pulled the ball on the ground, I must be early. Like, no, dude, you're rushed. You're rushing and you just like got out of dodge and tried to get there because you don't have enough time for yourself. So in being able to do that, we've been able to find a way where, like, based on how he's mishitting the ball, he can make those mechanical adjustments without having to think, oh, where am I getting to? Where's my back? You know, like, not thinking that shit, because you can't think that when the bullets are flying. It's got to be a more simplified approach. It's got to be.
That. Man, I love that. So you guys are pretty much, you guys are doing you guys are incorporating failure. You guys are challenging these guys. You guys are making them feel good, obviously, but we're growing, we're building. Dude, that's
and that's a big part of it too, that should be harped on, like, from the coaching side, is like understanding what a kid needs, right? Is like, there might be a kid that, dude, we have to do something that gives this kid confidence to go forward. Like, he's not, we can't make it chaotic for him because he's just going to melt. You know what I mean? Like, they need to, like, you need to be able to read the room, like, understand, like, yo, this kid swings in a good spot. Like, he's good. Like, all right, if he fails, this is good. It's going to tell us about what we could do. And then there's other kids, man, where it's like, I gotta, get him feeling good with just flips. Like, dude, let's go. You know what I mean? So that's a big piece of it too, is like understanding like where the kid's at and what the kid needs, because you know it, man. If your confidence is shot and you have no, trust or confidence in what you're doing, like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Oh, that's so huge, man. The confidence part, the confidence aspect. One of the things that I hated in the off season. So we go through the off season, we're grinding, we're just absolutely grinding, day in and day out. Hopefully you have a routine. Hopefully you are able to maintain some sort of discipline and just kind of like go about your off season consistently grinding. But once it starts getting to, okay, we're going either back to school or we're going to go to spring training, it's time to start getting ready, right? So how do we gauge that? We as hitters, we do live ABs. We do live ABs, man. Sometimes it's in a cage. Nick, we've done that in the at Wagner, bro. Getting in a cage in the like the basketball court,
gym,
getting after it, or we're in a dimly lit, like, hitting facility. Like, that's the part that I kind of hate, because I get my doors blown off. I never feel good taking these at bats behind the scenes, going into the spring trainer, going into our season. That's tough. So I wanted to preface all of this by saying, like, when it is time to get going back into the spring or the off season's done, don't judge what your off season work has dictated or how much progress you've made by what your last 2 or 3 or your only 2 or 3 ABs before you go to spring training or your season say, right? Is that, you think that's pretty fair?
Oh, dude, I hated hitting lives
It's
indoors
the worst,
before
brother.
spring training because I left every time like, holy shit, I
Yes.
am not going to have a job in a month because I would get blown up every time. And then you start to realize, man, it's like pitchers, number one, are always going to be ahead of the hitters early, especially early, right? And like as I started going, I started realizing like here's another thing I felt. I don't know about you, but like I always felt because I was hitting inside all year and then I go to spring training, even just taking BP felt like it took me like 2-3 days outside of BP to like start feeling good. Like I would show up the first 2 days and be like, yo, it felt like I did nothing. But then like as you start like acclimating yourself to where you are, it works itself out. So like as far as those at bats that you're taking, dude, it's like, and here's a great thing that I actually incorporated when I was doing some work with St. Thomas Aquinas was like, even if you wanted to, I would like cut a wood bat, like so I'm just holding the knob of the bat, like so there's no barrel to the bat, right? Yeah. I would stand in on live session on like a live BP. I wouldn't have a barrel. So I'm just making swing decisions and trying to swing a bat handle and think like, okay, good decision. And like, it kind of got me away from feeling like, you know, I had no thumbs as I was getting on the parkway heading home, or like just completely crushing my spirits, like thinking, oh, I had a really productive offseason. Swing feels really good. And I'm getting blown up by 92. And it's like, no good. So then I started using just a handle and like taking like basically like a tracking session while also making decisions on pitches that I'm seeing.
I love that, dude. That's amazing. So we got a comment in the chat. Brick Wall, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Zach Granite, good to see you. Appreciate everybody being here, dude. So we got Pickup Portal. That was English. Here we go. Pickup Portal. He said, is there an appropriate time for feel good BP and a time for learning BP? So I always Pickup Portal. Appreciate you being here. I always wanted to try to start feeling good before I was going to like go to spring training, maybe towards the end of the season. I always want to feel good, right? But if there's a time to like learning BP or like challenging myself in BP or implementing maybe a new round or a new way of training, like I'm trying to challenge the hell out of myself as much as humanly possible in the off season. If we're talking about like feel good BP and feeling good and kind of like just grooving it in there with overhand BP from a coach, like that stuff is great, man. It's important to feel good. But in the off season, we want to be getting after it. Of course we want to feel good, but in the off season, that's our time down to challenge ourselves. Because if we're challenging ourselves in the middle of the season, let's think about this. We're Major League Baseball players or we're minor league baseball players. We're playing 140 games. And dude, if we're just taking feel good BP, that's great. But if we were to try to challenge ourselves in the middle of the season, it could throw everything off, right? In my opinion. So when the stats matter, we want to maintain in the season. When the stats don't matter and we're able to strip it down, build it back up, like start getting our asses kicked a little bit. Dude, we're already hitting's hard enough. So if we were to be in the middle of the season and trying to like challenge ourselves, have this learning BP, set the machine up to 100 and bat, like stuff like that, that could be a detriment to us in season, if that makes sense. I hope that Deans, what do you think about that?
No, I think it's a great question. So like for me, I would say the same thing. Like as I was going to spring, it was just important to me that my swing felt like it was in a good place. And then like in the day-to-day during a season, I wanted to feel good going into the game. So like whatever I did pregame, like I would make sure that before the game started, I was going back to the cage. I was taking some BP. I was hearing good sound. I was seeing good ball flight. And I was like, all right, let's go. And I just wanted to feel good going into the game, a little bit of confidence, swings in a good spot. I'm in a good position to compete. For me as a catcher, it was beneficial because I knew, you know, when I had more off days than others because I was, you know, partly as a backup. And even when I was a starter, you weren't catching 6 games, 7 games a week. So those games or those days that I was off, especially as a backup and I wasn't playing, it was like I needed to be challenged because I needed to be ready to play. You know what I mean? When like my number was called. But when I was playing all the time, it was more of, hey, when I'm in a good spot, it's just maintenance. Like
Keep the groove.
Exactly. Just maintain. And you started to see, like, when you're feeling good, like my swings, like it went way down. Like I was taking less swings. I just needed to I needed to make sure that when I, had a 3 for 4 day on Tuesday, that I didn't show up Wednesday and forget how to hit, because there were days where that has happened. And I show up the next day, I'm like, yo, what the hell is going on? You know what I mean? Like, and that every ball player, I'm sure, can relate to that in some aspect, but that was my thing. Like before I was getting ready to play a game, I wanted to feel good. When I wasn't playing, I was getting challenged. Like I needed to be challenged.
100%, bro. So, Jake Kalish is in here. Jake,
There he is.
appreciate you being here, dude. We're actually, like I said, I got some clips that are supposed to be coming out this week of you, bro. We got them in the hopper, so hopefully we make some noise there, dude. Jake had sent a message in the chat. So, how important is positive self-talk, especially during times you don't feel good, dude? In my opinion, that was probably the make or break for me and my career, dude, because I was a little speed guy, right? So when you get to a point where a ground ball to the shortstop, even if you run a 6-2 or a 3-7, 3-8 down the line, you hit a ground ball to the shortstop. At some point, those turn into outs, right? Like right around probably double A is where it's like, okay, we got dudes all around the infield. Yeah, the positive self-talk when things are going well is fantastic, right? It's probably automatic because we keep the momentum going. We're thinking positive. We're seeing positive. We're having positive results. How important is it when stuff is not going well, dude? It is the make or break, because a lot of times we get into these slumps and, dude, sometimes it's a self-dug hole. And, dude, if we're in there for too long and we can't get out of there, it'll ruin a whole season. So, like, if we're physically not able to figure it out, dude, being like tricking ourselves into thinking that things are going well or we're remaining positive, bro, it could really like make or break everything for you, man. Because once the mind and the body goes, dude, we've played with some teammates, Deans. I know you have. I know I have. We've played with some teammates that are like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, dude, where it's all like, woe is me, worst case scenario. They're terrible teammates, bro. Dudes that can't handle failure. And once you get the mental and the physical game gone, dude, it is smell ya. You know what I mean?
Sayonara.
It's game over, dude. So I think it's extremely important. Deans, what do you got on that?
Listen, and that's why, dude, I think what you're doing, like, it cannot be undersold. And like what you're doing for the next generation of baseball players is just as important as getting in a cage and trying to fix somebody's swing. Because I have been in that situation, dude, where I go up to the plate and I feel helpless. Like I wish I could sit here and tell you, yeah, every at bat I took, I thought I was going to get a hit off this guy. That's not the truth. There's been times in my career where I go up to the plate and I'm like, I swing and miss at an 0-0 heater, or I foul a ball off. I'm done. I'm like, I'm cooked. I'm like, here we go. I don't know how you try to take it day by day, right? The problem is when you're staring at a scoreboard like right in your face that's telling you you're hitting under 200, it's like it's really hard to take it day by day. We've had this conversation too, is like I always tried to look at what I'm doing in increments of 10, right? I talked about that. So it's like okay, yeah, I'm one for my last 20, but my next 10, I'm 3 for 10. So I throw the 20 away, and it's like, yo, I'm hitting 300 my last 10 at bats. Like, just do that a couple more times and you'll get back. You know what I mean? Like, you got to find something that works. But like the reality of it is, it's super fucking hard. And when you're going good at the plate, hitting's not that hard, man. Like when you're going good, the best are able to weather the storm. The guys that can just stay here, those are the guys that continue to go. The guys that have this, that's where you see more like the peaks and valleys. You start to see more, high, like a lot more highs and lows. You don't see the like just steady, like holding the ground throughout a year. So I think your ability to do that, and that's something that needs to be practiced. Like your mental strength, your mental, the mental work that you should be doing as an athlete, any athlete, should not be overlooked, because you're going to get to a point, whatever age you are, and people are going to be better than what you're used to. At some point, you're going to go and enter a world where you're like, holy shit, this isn't what I'm used to. And you're going to get punched in the mouth. And the guys that make it out onto the other side of that are the guys that are mentally stronger than the guys that couldn't handle that failure. You need to be able to handle failure. It's a really hard concept to get and grasp, but that's why what you're doing, I don't think I wish this stuff was talked about when I was that age, because it just wasn't. And I was the guy that was fucking crying when I got out until I was 12 years old. You know what I mean? Like you have to make it some way part of what you're doing. And the earlier that you can start that, the better off you're going to be, because it's a lonely feeling, bro. You're by yourself when you're going through that. You know what I mean? You got coaches that are there trying to pick you up and do it, but it's up to you to get yourself out of it. And right here, that's how you get out of it. Like you gotta remember the successes that you've had.
Absolutely. I love that, dude. I love that. So talking about confidence, talking about adversity, dealing with failure, stuff like that. Yeah, it's all stuff that I'm doing. We've talked about ways to do it. We've talked about ways to get confidence, ways to get failure, bro. It's paramount to success, dude. Obviously, because when the mind and body go, bro, it's over.
Safe
Nicky
way.
Lopez.
This is a good one. I got one for you, NL.
We got a dude in the chat. All right. So during the tough stretches, dog days of the summer, how do you guys distance yourself or get your mind off the game away from the field, dude? So this is where if you're not a video game guy, like everybody's playing video games, right? So people play video games in the big leagues. People play video games in the minor leagues. We have so much downtime. You need some sort of habit or some sort of exercise that will allow you to just blow off some steam, dude. There are different ways to do it, obviously, but video games for me was a great way to do it, dude. Dude, there are meditation practices, there are mindfulness practices. That doesn't necessarily look like you sitting with your shirt off Indian style on the ground with your thumbs like this and saying, but there are like breathing techniques and exercises and stuff to do, intro to meditate, all that stuff to separate, dude. That was something that I really needed help with towards the end of my career. Deans, what do you got?
I was just going to say, first off, Gold Glove second baseman finalist.
That's right.
Nicky Lopez in the chat. So we're in rare air here, baby.
Oh, baby.
But how I got away from it was getting the text from Nicky Lopez, Verdansk ? And it was like, here we go. I'm on in 15. That's exactly how during a minor league season I got away from it too. It was like, let me get on Call of Duty, play some video games with my friends, and just be a big kid. You know what I mean?
It's important. It's important, dude.
Danny was. Elon said on Rogan. Did you see that Elon and Rogan thing? He also said that people that play video games make the best surgeons. Something about their ability to like see something on a screen and put their finger. I don't know. It was something very complex, but I did see that, Danny boy.
Oh, it's big time. That's big, dude. I was actually I was ranked top in the world, top 250 in the world in resurgence at one point.
You were. I remember you being a real
it's weird.
player.
Weird, man. It's real weird, dude. So, man, video games are huge, man. Obviously, like any type of thing that can get you. Oh, my wife is in the chat. Wow, babe, maybe you should be a surgeon. Thanks, babe. Yeah, that's something maybe we could look into. That'll help us. That would help us out big time. Yeah, I play enough video games to be a surgeon. That would be great. Well, hey, so that's all the time that we have, man. That's awesome, bro. So we'll plan on running this back again, man, next week or moving forward, continuing to go about it, dude. But I appreciate everybody being here, man. This is awesome. Deans, I appreciate you being here, dude. We'll
appreciate you having me, Mil.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We'll catch you guys on next time.
Later.
Sick. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Fly, Seahawks, fly. Yeah, dude. Dan Waslick, what's up? We had a little notification over here on YouTube, Nick, that your audio wasn't working. But it doesn't matter because we got Instagram, we got YouTube.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfect, and it sounds like everybody on IG can too.
There we go.
We're all chilling, bro. We're good. Hey, appreciate everybody being here. We'll catch you guys next time. Deans, appreciate you being here, homie.
Appreciate you. Thanks, Mil.